The stuff I'm about to tell you is the kind that'll mess with your head. Maybe you'll brush it off as just an office trip, but when my boss Fernando's in the picture, trust me, nothing's ordinary. See, lately I've been sick of my husband Bernard's passiveness, and the idea of going on a trip with a guy like Fernando, no matter how much it annoys me, kind of stirs up this excitement in me that I can't put into words. Don't get me wrong, I do love Bernard, but let's be honest, I constantly feel like something's missing in our marriage. He's nice, never jealous, almost too timid to the point of being shy. Sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and think, Jane, you're 35 years old, you're still alive, still a hot woman. I feel like I've got the power to set the whole place on fire, yet Bernard's quietness and lack of interest makes me feel lonely as hell. But my boss Fernando, he's a whole different animal. He's 50 but looks maybe 40 tops. Tall, broad shoulders, charismatic as hell, and let's not forget that tough, dominant vibe. The moment he walks into a room, everyone zeroes in on him, me included. As much as I try to keep my distance, I catch myself unable to tear my eyes away. Maybe you'll say it's wrong, but compared to my husband's passiveness, that manly man, Fernando, is stuck in my head. Our company's about to close a huge acquisition, so I got to go to another city. Normally, I'd drive myself, but Bernard came out with the wildest line that basically left me speechless. Why not let Fernando drive you, hun? He said in that calm, dismissive tone. It'll be safer and you won't get tired. I felt this wave of anger rising inside me, like you're just handing me over, leaving me even more alone, was all I could think. But instead of confronting him, I just said, all right, sure. Part of me wanted to rebel against Bernard's laid-back attitude, but then again, I couldn't exactly do otherwise. So Monday, right after work, we agreed to hit the road. The idea of spending hours on end with Fernando made my anger and excitement swirl into one big knot inside me. She's got a husband but is going to ride off with another man, you might say, but honestly, Bernard giving me that green light both pisses me off and somehow sparks my curiosity. What the hell is going to happen during this trip? I'm going to tell you in detail how we ended up stuck in a car, and all the stuff that went down from the very start. I promise the ending is going to be real exciting. Walking toward Fernando's massive, flashy SUV, I could feel my head spinning with that mix of anger and excitement. Bernard's voice, "Go with Fernando, no problem," was still echoing in my ears. Just climbing into that big, dark, beastly vehicle sent my heart racing. I guess the SUV's powerful stance and the deep growl of the engine reminded me way too much of Fernando himself. The moment I opened the door and settled into the leather seat, I felt the coolness of it against my skin. I realized my skirt rode up a little. I tried to adjust myself quickly, but I caught Fernando sneaking a glance. Even if it was just a split second, the spark in his eyes said it all. "Just relax, Jane. We've got a long drive ahead of us," he fired up the engine and said so casually. I had to clear my throat to hide my nerves. I tried to flash a casual smile, though excitement was pulsing through me. "Man, this car, it's as impressive as you are." The words slipped right out of my mouth. Even I was surprised. Normally, I'd never say something so forward, but the rush of it all was getting to me. Fernando just gave a low chuckle from the driver's seat. "This SUV gives me a sense of freedom, like it's my own personal space, wide, strong, and solid." I could feel his eyes flick over to me for a second when he said that, like he wasn't really describing the SUV so much as describing himself. The way he gripped the steering wheel with that kind of confidence made me bite my lip. I couldn't help thinking, I wish Bernard could be more like this. Before this story gets any crazier, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and turn on notifications for more. And hey, by the end, I'd love your support with comments and likes. We hit the road. A light rain was drizzling, and as we drove along the rain-slick asphalt lit up by the headlights, the inside of the vehicle was quieter than I expected. The only sounds were the low rumble of the engine and the dull patter of rain on the window. For a while, silence ruled. It was Fernando who broke it again. "Jane, we've gone to a bunch of business dinners before but never taken such a long trip together. How are you feeling?" It struck me as weird because he normally doesn't like talking much outside of work. A small smile formed on my face. Feels a bit strange. I always thought you were worried I'd feel overloaded with responsibilities, and yet here we are, driving down a road neither of us really knows. Fernando took his eyes off the road for a split second to look at me. Maybe what I already know about you isn't enough, Jane. I might want to learn more about you. In that moment, my heart skipped a beat, then raced. I'm not used to hearing lines like that from my boss. At the same time, I shifted in my seat, pretty sure my skirt had hiked up a little. I could sense Fernando's gaze going there, noticing he didn't say a word about it. For about half an hour, the car moved in silence and a weird tension. I threw out a couple of small questions now and then, and he gave short replies, but there was an unspoken hint in everything he said that seemed to grow. Right around then, a warning light lit up on the dash, the check engine light. A sudden look of surprise crossed Fernando's face. This ride never acts up like that. Let's pull over. By then, the rain had really picked up, hardly any cars were passing us, and I saw no signs of life out here. Finally, he found a spot to ease the car over and kill the engine. After switching it off, he gave the steering wheel a. I feel a light thump. You see that? I guess I talk too big. I said my SUV never breaks down, and bam, some issue pops up. Hope it's nothing serious. A little unease crept up in me. The isolation plus the rain kind of amped up the tension, but maybe it also fueled the curiosity and excitement stirring inside me. So what do we do now? It's getting dark. Fernando glanced outside at the sky, which was getting darker from the rain, then turned back to me with that confident look and a slight smile. I remember seeing a gas station not too far from here. Maybe we can drive up there and get this checked. But first, let me take a look. With that, he cracked the window a bit, trying to reach out, and raindrops splattered inside while I sat there in the car, feeling both uneasy and strangely drawn in. I realized my boss normally isn't this concerned. Usually, he just asks me how I'm doing, talks about work, and that's it. But clearly, tonight he was in a different mood. Right when I was thinking this, I glanced down at my skirt. Am I showing too much? I wondered, only to catch Fernando looking my way. I had no choice but to take a deep breath. Yeah, we're stuck in a car in the middle of nowhere. It's broken down, and the rain's not letting up anytime soon. My mind was screaming the question louder and louder, what else is going to happen tonight, Jane? Fernando spent a little while trying to get a signal on his phone, but with the rain pounding and the windows nearly washed out, I could hear him mumble, if we're lucky, maybe we'll catch some coverage. I noticed him get just a faint signal, and he lifted the phone to his ear, voice lowered. I watched from a distance, trying to read his expression. After maybe 1 or 2 minutes of phone chatter, he turned back to me with a slight smile. Softly he said, unfortunately, it might take a rescue crew like 5 hours to get here, and it turns out there isn't a gas station nearby after all, which meant we had no choice but to spend a good long while here in the SUV. Hearing that, I felt this weird buzz inside me. Part of me freaked out at being stuck in a remote spot so late, but another part felt supercharged with excitement at being stuck with Fernando. Nobody around to interrupt us. My heart clenched so tight it almost hurt. Inside the car, I sat there listening to the rain drum against the windows as Fernando inched closer. At first, there was a light silence. Then he looked at me and said, I want to hear something from you, Jane. I glanced at him, not sure what he meant. Usually, our boss-employee vibe was way formal. We never really chatted about personal stuff, but right now his face seemed extra warm. I could still see that commanding side of him in his eyes, but for some reason, I caught a protective vibe too, like he wanted me to feel comfortable. Or maybe he had a totally different intention. I couldn't tell, but there was a tone in his voice that softened me up, and I couldn't hold back. Heart pounding, I whispered, what? Do you want to hear as I said it? I was messing with the edge of my skirt, feeling like his gaze kept drifting right there. Almost without thinking, I brushed back my black hair from my shoulder. Fernando, like he was sharing a secret, lowered his voice. For instance, he said, "We've worked together all this time, but I don't really know what you want, what you like. It's like you're constantly hiding yourself." That line hit me so hard, like he'd stepped right on the hidden part of me that felt so suppressed in my marriage. This sense of lack of manliness. I wanted to blurt out the truth, but held back. Still, my voice trembled. "I'm not hiding that much," I said in a low tone. The space between us was almost non-existent under the SUV's dim cabin light. My eyes locked with Fernando's, and this surge of excitement hit me so hard I could literally feel his breathing speed up too. That moment, I swear, I'll never forget. It felt like we were frozen in time, both of us thinking what the hell to say next. Finally, he broke the silence again. It was like the words got stuck in his throat for a second, and then with a slight smile, he said, "Jane." Just hearing him say my name made my skin tingle. At that exact second, words failed. It felt like we were caught in some kind of magnetic field. Next thing I knew, I was leaning in, and seeing him coming closer to me made my pulse race even faster. We got so close I could actually catch his scent, feel his warm breath against my skin. Before I realized it, my mind screamed, "Jane, stop," but my body wasn't listening. My husband Bernard's passiveness, that emptiness I've been carrying for so long, Fernando's strong, dominant vibe, all of it echoed in my head at once. I shut my eyes and let go. For a few seconds, my heartbeat was so loud it was like it was echoing in my ears. I couldn't deny the pull I felt, and Fernando was clearly feeling it too because I sensed one of his hands slowly finding mine while the other moved like it wanted to touch my shoulder. When we leaned toward each other, it was like every sound in the world vanished except our breathing. My heart was pounding so hard I couldn't calm the storm brewing inside me. What shocked me most was that Fernando seemed just as wrapped up in that same intense desire. The look on his face, so firm yet softened by the moment, stripped away any hesitation I had. Then Fernando gently placed his hand on my shoulder. Feeling his heat sent a shiver down my spine. His touch on my skin sparked a kind of energy I've never felt before. My eyes still shut, I noticed his other hand drifting toward the thin strap of my dress. With these confident fingers, he nudged that strap to the side, almost like he knew exactly what he was doing. Right then, the voice of reason in my head just shut down. I tilted my head slightly, letting that burning sensation slide down my neck. It was like each touch was filling the emptiness inside me. Meanwhile, I got up the nerve to slide my other strap down. My hand reached for the top buttons of his shirt. Feeling the warmth of his chest and the hardness of his muscles underneath sent a wave of excitement through me. That's when our lips finally met. At first, it was a light brush, but in no time, it turned into both of us letting out all the pent-up emotions we'd been hiding beneath that tough exterior. He had this unbelievably passionate way of kissing, and I, caught up in his magnetic pull, gave into the kiss even more. It escalated real quick into a deep, intense make-out session. Seconds felt like minutes as our breaths blended. Then, like we both remembered something at the same time, we pulled back a bit. Outside, the rain sounded louder than ever, words were pretty much useless. Our eyes met, and then I realized my dress had slipped down. I picked it up and basically tossed it onto the front seat in a panic. My heart was still slamming in my chest. I couldn't believe how fast things were happening, how I just made that decision, and now found myself in this situation. It was cold out, but the rain hitting my skin felt refreshing in a weird way, also boosting the adrenaline coursing through me. I was too rattled to speak. I hurried toward the SUV's back seat, noticing offhand that it looked more spacious, maybe comfier. Fernando followed me without saying a word. The moment we got to the back seat, he wrapped an arm around my waist and pulled me in close. That warmth from his body and his strong, distinct scent totally wiped out any thoughts left in my head. When our lips met again, the rain outside felt like some kind of soundtrack playing in the background. My heart was pounding in my ears, and the storm inside me was dragging me into a whole other realm. All I could think was how every second of this moment was going to stick in my mind for a long, long time. Under the dim light in the car, I glanced at the ceiling and saw Fernando leaning in over me. The instant I ran my hand through his hair, something inside me sparked to life. There was nobody around for miles, so I wasn't afraid to let out any kind of noise. I could feel it, whatever I was feeling was so intense and so damn good. Fernando wouldn't let up, he never seemed to get tired. Every so often, he'd look at me and say, "You're so beautiful." That alone felt unreal, like I was stuck in a dream. His huge build was blowing my mind, and the weight of him was so damn real, a real man. When I tried to joke, stammering, "You're still my boss here too," my voice was shaking. Then came that big wave of sensation in my legs, and I heard him say, "You've got 4 more hours stuck here with your boss." My eyes went wide at that, and imagining what was next made me both freak out and wish this night would never end. I suddenly felt so damn tired, like I could barely keep my eyes open. The rain outside just wouldn't let up, pounding down like it had no intention of stopping. In the dim glow of the back seat, our breaths. We're still tangled together while Fernando quietly scooted closer, pressing his hand firmly on my waist. He was staring at me with this calm yet passionate look that almost put me at ease, but also made my heart pound like crazy. "I know Bernard, your husband," he whispered, his voice so soft and self-assured. It both shocked me and made my heart race. "I can see in your eyes he's not enough for you, but after today, you won't be missing a thing." Then he gave a slight smile. That smile set off a storm of indescribable emotions in me. In that moment, I felt like I was in a dream, with no sense of time or what hour it was. We were stuck in this car, the rain outside refusing to quit, and any help was still far off. Hearing that bold tone in Fernando's voice, I realized yet again there'd be no quick way out of here. "Looks like," he said, gazing deep into my eyes, "we're here together for hours more, and from the look of it, we'll have to stay at least an extra day in the city we're headed to." He had that trademark grin on his face again while he said it. I leaned my head back against the seat, letting out a tired sigh. "Guess this night's never going to end," I mumbled to myself, feeling all the excitement and confusion inside me. The truth is, I knew damn well that after tonight, nothing would ever be the same again. I can't wait to tell you about what happens when we finally get to the city for that business meeting and settle in. Next time, we'll dive into even crazier stuff. And if you've made it this far, I already know this story's got you hooked. Don't miss out on what's next. Hit that follow button, turn on notifications, and drop a comment about this tale. I'm dying to hear your thoughts.